A place where all races could gather in the name of peace, a place where people could escape the busyness of their lives, the distraction, a place where all the mental poisons, the anger, the desire, the aversion would melt away, and then what is left? What is left is that peace and the harmony and the compassion and the wisdom. So a place that people could come and it would just automatically arise. Because as we know, we can argue a lot about the road to peace, but peace is what we all desire. And today is a very special day, of course, being 9/11. And we remember 9/11, and it's a day when it was actually a very, very difficult day of great tragedy. And it was also a day that could have been better if we could have opened our hearts maybe a little bit more to people of other countries and nations, to people of other races and religions, to figure out how could we have gotten to that and where do we need to go from here. But unfortunately, we've been engaging in more and more war, and we're hoping that we can engage in more and more peace, which is why we're here. But it was interesting because it was on 9/11 that Rinpoche said, we have to go and build this garden as quickly as possible, these 1,000 Buddhas. But he said in the center of the garden, we needed Yum Chenmo, the mother of all Buddhas, because we have to get compassion and wisdom arising so quickly now in the hearts of people to turn this tide of negativity. And so as you walk around Yum Chenmo, she was really born in the mind of my teacher on 9/11, when the great tragedy happened, so that great peace could arise in the hearts of all of us in the face of great tragedy. And the reason that we're gathered here today is to have a wonderful discussion, a discussion with our music, a discussion with our words, a discussion with our dancing, a discussion about how we go forward from here, how we have spiritual solutions to social challenges. And so we have the finest of the finest people here today to help us in those discussions, to help us open our hearts. And this is also an extremely important time because it is the year of the centennial of homesteading here on the Flathead Reservation. And here we have this sacred site on the Flathead Reservation. This was sacred land. And as the land was taken away, very small parts were given to the indigenous people, and this was one of them. And 100 years ago, it was open to homesteading. And so you'll see up and down the valley celebrations of the centennial. And so many people are celebrating, but we need to hear the other voice, what it's been like for the indigenous people for the last 100 years here. Open to homesteading, and then for them to welcome us with this sacred site. And it hasn't been easy. I mean, here we are Buddhists, you know, from the lineage of Tibet, having 1,000 Buddhist statues in the middle of the reservation. And yet there's been such an open-heartedness. And we are so humbled that the Native American people, the indigenous people, the people who made this land sacred have allowed us to do this on the reservation. And it's been, yeah, we really honor the indigenous people. And we are so grateful that Nkusum School has partnered up with us today to sponsor this Peace Festival, the Arley CDC, the surrounding communities. And it's a day that we really need to be out there and be learning the Indian games. We need to be really going forward with one heart and one mind. So, you know, so go out of your way, talk to the people at Nkusum School as they talk to us. This is an incredible school that Stephen Small Salmon will be talking about that's preserving the Salish language, and there's very few speakers left on the planet, and when the language goes, the culture goes. And the people in Tibet are struggling with this very much, just as the indigenous people all over the world are struggling with this. And when my teacher went by this land, he said that has to be the place for this sacred site, because he could tell this had been prayed for generations, that this was sacred land, sacred spirits. And so for us, again, to be allowed to gather here in the name of peace, we owe a huge debt to the Indigenous people who have provided all of this. And it truly is a time that we get together as people of one race, people of one belief, people who want peace, people who are willing to stop killing all the other species. You know, I'm a medical doctor, and it feels so hypocritical to me. So often I try to preserve human life when the planet is dying. And so now we have all this scientific evidence about Earth systems. When the Indigenous people talked about interdependent webs, this was self-evident knowledge, and our future hopes are rooted in the past. And unless we look to the Indigenous people for knowledge and wisdom, it's going to be very, very difficult. And so again, we welcome the opportunity for all of us to gather here today. And Stephen Small Salmon, Julie Kajun will be coming up in a few minutes. And I'd like to, let me say just a few more words about the garden so we don't have any distraction when Dan Decker is up here. But the Garden of 1,000 Buddhas, we're working very hard, and as all of you know, the Dalai Lama has is going to be coming to consecrate this site, which is pretty amazing. We're going to have many, many, many people here. And he realizes that this is a very sacred site, and it's also an international peace center. And as soon as we get the garden built, he will come. So it's kind of build it and he will come. So we ask for all of your help with your prayers, your aspirations, your volunteer time. There's many ways to get involved. And please just circulate around. You can sponsor Buddhist statues. You can help make Buddhist statues. You can help cut the grass. Financial donations are, of course, always needed, but we're hoping to finish this garden in the next year so we can announce to all of you the exact date that the Dalai Lama will be coming. And when the Dalai Lama comes, Julie Kajun has been working very hard, and the hope is that there will be a gathering of the Indigenous voices of all of the Americas to talk about land, culture, and compassion. So there's going to be many, many, many things happening all at one time, and the eyes of the world are going to be on us. And we are going to be the leaders in leading the world toward peace. And so this Peace Festival, which is the 6th, and every year it keeps getting better and better, and the Drum Brothers have been here every year. And we really give them thanks. Stephen Small Salmon has been here every year, and many of you have been here every year, even when there's been 20 or 30 people, when it's been 120 degrees, when it's been 50 degrees, and we give thanks for all of your support. And I would like to say a few words about Julie Kajun. I don't really see Julie out there, but she must be around. Here she is. I had the really good fortune of introducing Julie Kajun, who was the keynote speaker last night at St. Patrick's, celebrating women, honoring women, helping women. And Julie is truly one of my heroes in life. And she is someone who has so persevered and has stepped forward to tell the story of the Indian people. You know, as we all know, when we have read our history books, they tell so little of the history, and it was the great historian Howard Zinn, who recently I found out was a friend of Julie Kajun's, who started telling the story of the women, telling the story of the workers, telling the story of the marginalized and the poor of this great country of ours. And Julie Kajun, like Howard Zinn, has worked for decades to tell the story of the people, the first people of this land. And this is an oral history, and it's a history that almost has been dying out. Some of it, I'm sure, has died out. And Julie has been resurrecting it, gathering the stories, helping the Indian colleges all over our state to gather the stories to make it available to people, because without this knowledge, how can we know who we are? How can we accept responsibility for what has happened? How can we change our hearts in the present and have a future that we're really proud of being a part of? How can we live lives that are worth dying for? And Julie has done this work, and she has opened many people's eyes. And actually, she's gotten the attention of people, educators all over the United States, and they're looking at what Julie Kajun is doing, and they're looking to her as an educator to educate all of us to allow this great story to be told so that we can be better people today. And so Julie is going to be coming up. Julie is going to introduce Dan Decker. She's also going to be moderating a wonderful panel that we're having today, talking about spiritual solutions for the social problems that we have today. And we're going to have the Salish flutes, and we're going to have a round dance. We're going to have, I'm getting some looks of, I'm not sure if I'm saying this right, but we're going to have incredible music and fun, and stick around and just enjoy yourself, because it's by having fun and enjoying ourselves we remember to lay down anything that's between us and our neighbor. And life is so short, and it's over in an instant, but today is ours, and we're very, very lucky to be here, and I thank you all for coming.
I planted all my family out there. No, I jokes, no. Thank you, Georgia, for that embellished and probably too gracious introduction. Indian people have been really busy since time immemorial, and I think that every Indian person I know carries a generational responsibility to their community, and so there have been so many people doing so many things, and I'm one of those people. And so that is my place. I'm just lucky to be in this time when our state has determined that teaching the larger history is the right thing to do. And so I'm very proud of that. I'm also deeply appreciative of all of the elders and people in our community that have treasured our language, that have treasured our stories, that protected them and kept them, so that we have those, that they remain today. And so I appreciate that. Pat Pierre is here. I think I saw Mary Lucy Parker, another fluent speaker of our language, Stephen Small Salmon. There are a few people here remaining that speak our language, and Pat and Stephen go every day to teach with young children, and that takes a huge amount of energy. I'd also like to acknowledge Gordon Belcourt. I saw him somewhere. Gordon, there he is, a tribal leader, busy being an advocate for tribal affairs. 100 years ago, the government decided to open the Flathead Indian Reservation to homesteading. And within several decades, Indian people became the minority landowners on their own reservation. This was part of our homeland. It wasn't given to us. It was a small piece of land that the tribes reserved. So we became the minority landowners, and today we are also the minority population. That has created a lot of animosity and conflict, and I believe that our tribe have been engaged in nonviolent resistance for hundreds of years. And so it's fitting, I believe, that at the Peace Festival that we talk about aggression, 100 years of aggression that has taken place here, and that we talk about reimagining the next 100 years, that the next 100 years we would be witnessing acts of compassion and justice. History is never inevitable. Every day we make a choice for how we live and how we treat one another and what we do, and whether we take a stand or whether we remain silent. And that's a choice for everybody. And so we're all a part of this. We're all a part of this here. And so before Dan comes up, I want to extend my deep appreciation to Georgia, to the Buddhist community here, to the Rinpoche for respecting the original people of this land, for understanding that there were already prayers and songs here, and for including us and understanding that we need to come together in respect and treat one another as spiritual beings. Dan Decker is going to take you through 100 years in 20 to 30 minutes. And I don't know how he's going to do that, but I trust him to do that well. He's a wonderful human being. He's also my relative. He's been an attorney for many years, for over 15 years for the Confederated Salish and Kootenai tribes. He is a tribal member here. He has deep roots in this land. Our family have generations, thousands of years rooted to this land. And so Dan is going to take you through that time period quickly, but in a very interesting and I'm sure animated way. And so he said, what did you get me into? Something wonderful. So let's welcome him and show him how wonderful it's going to be.
Julie might as well have kept talking. I don't know what she asked me to do this for. First and utmost, I guess, is to thank the Creator for today. It is a beautiful, beautiful day for this gathering. I would like to thank Him for all of your safe travels here, and I pray that all of you will have safe travels home. I will repeat a little bit of what Julie had to say, much more eloquently than I probably will. But I think of utmost importance is to understand that this has always been our home. For the Salish, Pend Oreille, Kootenai, and Kalispel people, this has always been home. And quite correctly so, it is a very, very strong and spiritual place. I've met many people from around the world, visitors, tribal neighbors who come here for medicinal purposes and plants, and who come here because they say it's so strong and powerful, the mountains here. Very, very much so, we believe, and I am fortunate to be one of those original people, or a part of those original people, where this is our homeland. And we still think of it in that way. This is our homeland. The journey that I'm going to take you on is a bit longer than 100 years. It's to understand that from our perspective, from the beginning of time, this has been home. Not that we in particularly own the land, but it has been home. It's been where we've resided, where we've existed, where the earth has provided for us, and along with that is our spiritual obligation to take care of the earth. It is a part of our mission and our goal to protect the earth, to take care of her, and the whole environment around us. Not selfishly in a way for ourselves exclusively, but so that everybody can enjoy it. And I think with that kind of understanding of how we think about the world, how we think about the earth, that we have an obligation, probably much more of an obligation to Mother Earth than the other way around. And so remember that, I guess, early on, our perspective of that was different than our new neighbors, different than those people that came here to visit us, and even somewhat different from many of our tribal neighbors, but a common understanding that we must take care of what we have in order for it to take care of us. Part of an international understanding now, for example, with global warming. We've got to take care of what we have in order for it to take care of us. Well, 155 years ago, our great nation entered into a treaty with the great nation of the United States, as on a nation-to-nation basis. We were not, even by the U.S. Constitution, a part of the citizenry of this great country. We were our own citizens of our own nations. we entered into what we refer to as the Treaty of Hellgate in 1855, a nation-to-nation treaty. The United States with the Confederated Salish and Kootenai people of the Flathead Nation, and that's how it reads on our treaty. But as a part of that treaty, what I wanted to create as an understanding was this area where we're at today, which was referred to in the treaty as the Jocko Reservation, was to be the permanent tribal homeland for those Indian nations entering into that agreement with the United States. I won't get into some of the other politics about the Bitterroot Valley, but this was to be a permanent tribal homeland for the native people forever. 155 years ago, that was the deal. In exchange for that, we native nations gave title to the United States, not the other way around, to over 12 million acres of land in western Montana. You might as well basically say what is we consider western Montana today was recognized in that treaty as our territory. But in order to protect a permanent tribal homeland, we gave up that territory for this beautiful land where we're at today. Now, as I was saying, I don't want to get into a lot of the politics, but a lot of politics were going on at the time, obviously, and the mission of the United States quite different than that of the native nations, and the mission at the time was to get railroads from the East Coast to the West Coast. And to recognize that legally to gain title, they had to negotiate title with native people. And that was the treaty document. It was basically a title document. It was basically a property transaction. I could spend hours going into that, but I won't. To move forward, this permanent tribal homeland then, where we're at today, as time moved forward, and we were talking about aggression, as time moved forward, the government came up with something called the Allotment Act, the General Land Allotment Act, the Dawes Act. But it was another scheme by the government when you look at history. The scheme was twofold, and people of different beliefs came together to pass this General Land Allotment Act. And the concept was, first, civilize those savage people because they don't pray in a Christian way. The second part of it was, we will civilize them by making them agrarian farmers. They will become farmers, those people, because we will give each of them a piece of land. That was the logic, but it was their land to begin with. But under the Allotment Act, every Indian would get a parcel of land of which he could eventually own outright, do things with, of course, all under the control of the United States government. But the Allotment Act was to create farmers, help civilize us, make us more, I guess, pleasant to live with. I can't think of a better way to put it. Those rasty savages will travel around the country and hunt. They will cross the mountains to go where they used to go before. We need to nail them down. But as a part of that Allotment Act, the politicians brought that here. But the native people here did not want the Allotment Act. They did not want to parcel up the land. They wanted to use it communally as they always have. And this was at a time when, quite frankly, the Indian people living here were doing quite well. Economically, they were self-sufficient in taking care of themselves. They had horse herds, they had cattle herds, there was a buffalo herd here. Indian people were taking care of themselves. But the government, in their wisdom, said, no, you need to do this. Well, as I said, strange bedfellows come together. There was a dual purpose to that. So as they move forward, the tribes here wouldn't accept it. They passed in 1904 the Flathead Indian Allotment Act, a version of the General Land Allotment Act specifically written for us, for this reservation. And under that Allotment Act, then every Indian would get a piece or a parcel of this land. ranging from heads of households at 160 acres to members of households at 80 acres. And as you go through the valley and you look at it parceled out, these parcels of land at one time, in this valley, almost all of the land at one time were originally Indian allotments, where individual Indian families and members of those families had land. So in 1904, that passes. 1905, in order to make the act work, they do a census. So they count all the Indians. And so all of us that are living here get counted. And it's like a can of worms. I mean, people argue about enrollment today and who should be a member and who shouldn't be a member. And I always go off on a tangent here because Indians are the only people in this country with a pedigree. And a lot of people don't realize that. I can reach in my pocket, pull out my membership card, and show you exactly how much Salish Indian I am. Can you reach in your pocket and pull out a card that tells me how much Irish you are? How much French you are? No. The only other things with pedigrees around my place are horses and dogs. But all of my kids got them. But it's a real racist thing when you think about it, because native people in this land are the only ones that have that. But they counted us. Once they counted us, they gave heads of households 160 acres, they gave members of households 80 acres and children 80 acres. And through that policy, this reservation, which at one time was nearly 1.3 million acres of Indian-held land, nearly slightly over 250,000 acres was given out in title to individual Indians. Now here's the kicker though. Once that happened, once the allotment process was done, then the government declared the land that was left over, which would be nearly 1 million acres of land, as surplus government land, and opened this reservation to homesteading, and allowed non-Indians to homestead lands on this reservation. And in the course of that first year, 6,000 parcels of land were homesteaded. Thus we get to why there's such a mixture of population on this reservation. Because it was open to homesteading and people homesteaded land, and then later the Allotment Act was changed. People were forced to pay taxes who weren't used to paying taxes because of government policies. Lands passed from Indian ownership to non-Indian ownership. And eventually in 1934, then the Indian Reorganization Act passed, but the most wonderful thing that it did of all was it stopped the allotment process and it stopped the homesteading process. But at the time that happened, only about 450,000 acres of land remained in Indian ownership between individual Indians and the tribe. So, when we're talking about this, part of it is I want to create an understanding of why the population on this reservation is so diverse. But that's probably the principal reason. Not only the Allotment Act, but the government was so ahead of their time in thinking. They looked at Flathead Lake and said, my God, what a beautiful place. So they passed something else. They called it the Villa Sites Act for the Flathead Reservation, and the government auctioned off lakefront property on Flathead Lake. Yeah, we're a diverse place, but the thing about that is, a point that Julie was making is, we all have our own concepts of peace. And I guess the message I wanted to bring with it was, one of the principal things of peace, each of us has our own definition of what peace is and what peace should be. But most of all, one of the main teachings that I've learned from my elders, from my parents, from people like Pat, is that we need to be respectful of one another. You've never heard of an Indian going out and trying to Indianize somebody. You have heard of somebody going out and trying to civilize somebody or Christianize somebody We've never forced our beliefs on anybody else, but we've certainly had them forced on us. One of the principal things from my perspective of peace is being respectful of one another and of our differing beliefs. I respect how people choose to pray. I respect everybody in their own individuality of how they might want to believe in the spiritual world or their own individual spirituality. But that's part of a native belief. As natives, we believe that that's a personal choice. How we believe, how we pray, but it's a common belief that we need to be respectful of one another. Not to mention that Salish and Kootenai people are quite social. We've intermarried with about everybody that comes through. We're not pushing people away. But that's part of the understanding of knowing that what's here is here to share with people. What we ask in that process is something that one of my grandparents once said, if I could ask anything, it would be that people would be respectful and obey the laws. What I've found as a lawyer is that when we natives are winning on the law, the rest of the country goes to Congress to change that law, to modify it, to do something to it so that it doesn't quite work in our favor anymore. What I would ask of people coming to my homeland as a member of the tribes here is be respectful of our beliefs, be respectful of how we pray, be respectful that we think about how to protect the environment as much as anybody else. And a point of history here is the first tribal wilderness area in the country. Thank you. The first tribal wilderness area in the country is up here in the Mission Mountains. We were the first tribe in the country as a government to set aside an area for wilderness purposes. We stopped the hunting of grizzlies before they were stopped under the Endangered Species Act. We're respectful of our animal brothers and sisters, because without them, we don't have our way of life. And people worry about us hunting. Well, we can't hunt until the species is extinct, because that's just not how it can be. They have to be a part of our world. They have to be a part of our land. And people say, well, you're not regulated in how you do that. We've shut down entire areas of our homeland to hunting, to protect our animal brothers and sisters. And we've got a wealth of black bears, if they haven't come and visited you lately, because we're respectful. The bad thing is once in a while they get a bus ride to Libby. Not the greatest place in the world, or they go end up in a zoo. That was the most recent thing of triplets. But, and keep going back to where we're at today, I am proud to say that our tribes now own by far the majority of this reservation, either by tribally or individual Indians combined. We have purchased back that which we believe is ours. One of the things that remains true is if you own it, you can definitely control it. Now, the aggression that Julie talked about, with this change of things, with the homesteading, with that came other politics, other political structures. It just wasn't the political structures of the native governments anymore. We then had to deal with incorporated communities, town governments. We then had to deal with county governments, and there's 4 counties on this reservation. The largest county on this reservation is Lake County, but there's considerable portions of Missoula County, Sanders County, and part of our reservation has Flathead County. Our tribal government has to interact with 4 county governments, not to mention the state government and the federal government. So our political leaders, our tribal council has a big job, and a lot of people sometimes wonder what they do. Well, let's talk about how many incorporated towns there are who look to the tribe to help them out. The counties. And the most aggressive of all that we've dealt with in terms of trying to govern our own territory has been our local counties and the state of Montana. When we wanted to control hunting and fishing on the reservation, who fought us? Montana. When we wanted to take care of our own in terms of criminal offenses, who fought us? Montana. My point is, you've come to our territory, be respectful of our ways, be respectful of our laws, and I think as we move forward, I am honored that other religions and people of other beliefs find this place so powerful and spiritual to bring this temple here. I'm honored by that. Because what it does, it recognizes how powerful this place is. That this place has spiritual power. And I'm thankful that it's the home for my tribal membership. I'm thankful that you could come here today. I hope I've helped in a small way kind of understand the diversity. A lot of people don't understand the diversity of people, but it's because this reservation was open to homesteading 100 years ago. Now, to some people that seems like a long time ago, but my grandmother was a little girl when it happened, and she talked about it. She talked about the change of being able to ride from Post Creek to Dixon, and then all of a sudden having to go down county roads because there were fences where there weren't fences before. How it made the trip longer. How the trip to Missoula became longer because you could no longer use the old trails, you then had to use the highways. So it's not that far away. And things have changed a lot. And how much they've changed just in my lifetime, I can't believe what it's going to change, or how much it may change in my children's lifetime. But out of that, I would ask that you be a good neighbor, and we'll be good neighbors. I don't necessarily think that it takes... I don't necessarily buy the adage that good fences make good neighbors. I don't necessarily buy into that. I think good neighbors are respectful of one another and of each other's things. And we've adopted a lot of things. We've in many ways understand land ownership now in a different way than we did 100 years ago. But we understand too that we do things sometimes that impact how you use your land. But my government has been open enough to allow people to comment on those things. When we think about regulating land use, when we think about regulating water, right now we're in huge discussions over water. And who regulates it and who protects its quality. This reservation was one of the first in the country for pristine air quality standards using federal law. Class 1 air quality here. We've got more stringent clean water standards in the state of Montana. I think all of those things point to that we want to protect the earth, we want to protect the environment, we want to preserve this pristine area. We need to protect its spirituality. We need to respect the strength and the power that's in these trees and in these mountains. And I'll leave it with this, I guess, is that on this time of peace, as we talk about peace, peace isn't necessarily just warfare. Many people think of peace in terms of whether or not there's a war. It's not necessarily whether or not there's a war. I've been in households where there's not been peace, but there's not been a war. Mom and dad just haven't been getting along. But peace is where we respect one another. And with that, This is a great day for everybody to be here. I appreciate everybody that showed up. I thank Julie for the introduction, and she's one grand lady, she is, and she has really devoted a lot of time to the school. I'm glad to see Pat and Steve here and Nakusum go visit over there. We're trying to preserve our language as a part of that. Something that's central to all of our cultures is language. So with that, thank you for bearing with me. And with that, I will turn this over to my daughter.
Is Stephen here? Ticini? Stephen Small Salmon. Stephen is going to come up and lead us in a round dance. If you want to look at the maps that show the story of allotment and homesteading, they're over at a booth where they're selling t-shirts. And if you haven't been to Nkusum, please, it's right in Arlee. They have school tours you can go and visit, spend an hour, maybe learn a Salish greeting, watch Stephen teach little ones, and Aspen is with them. Let's welcome them.
No, I'm all right. Here we are again. 6 years. 6 years ago, it seemed like it was yesterday when we first started this place right here. And beautiful place here. I remember first time I got up here, I was shy, still shy. And we sang some songs, ate some food. There's some dry meat over there talking about food, you know. In Nkusum, that's our school. And they got a couple deer yesterday, and Patty Stevens, and they started that. And if you haven't tried it, go try some. It's better than that jerky you buy from the store. Yeah, it is. It's really nice deer. And we got a store over there in Nkusum. Whatever we make over there goes to the school. We don't make anything. So I brought before the boss has to come late, you know, last. And I brought one of our students, our former students. So what's quest?
I'm a Matashu Squast, which Nupanel Sil Spent till and Scout is Skelly. I'm not special.
I don't understand. I don't understand Indian. Could you say that in white or English?
So, hello everyone, my name is Aspen Smith. I'm 17 years old and I'm from here. And I just want to thank you all for coming and hope you all have a good time.
A question net steady.
I'm not super actually Skelly in Austin.
It's Chenu Quest
Sucha and Ska.
It's Chenu Quest Amy.
Sucha Nkusum Snatch Gamini, Sucha Spent.
And I told her, don't be scared because they don't understand out there. So anyway, I'm really proud of our student right here. And I'd like to have is Pat here around someplace? Could you come up, Pat? Rinpoche, could you come up here? My friend. And his sidekick. You know, I asked these guys if they ever got married, you know. They're always together, you know. We got to get married, I guess. They don't understand anyway. But anyway, this guy here, come here. When I first when I first met this guy, we got become really good friends. And I asked him one time, I said, do you talk our language, you know? And he didn't, so he just smiled at me, I could tell. And between Linda and we visit each other, and we almost got the similar beliefs that we have here, wherever he come from. And that's really awesome, you know. Him from way down there in a different country, then he come up here, and I explain it to him what we do, you know. And he said, that's about the same way that we do over there. Give him a hand. Then a little while ago, we were sitting over there, and I asked Rinpoche if he knows how to talk, and he said, little bit. Now I can't talk about him. Yeah. And he's been my friend for 6 years. He's been really close to me. And Pat Pierre is my elder. He is my elder. He's my teacher. He's my everything. And I and Pat, we talk our language down in Kusum. We try to stay with the language as much as we could. Just Indian that we talk. I said, we're going to talk all day, nothing but in Indian. And, you know, our tribe here, I know there's some Indians out there from here. We got some teachers. We got Patty Stevens. Would you raise your hand, Patty? She's back there. She's one of our teachers. And Trina. Trina, is she here? And what's his name again? He's standing over there, looking around. Jesse, raise your hand. We got some teachers here that we are trying so hard. This is our 9th year there, you know, teaching our little children. I got the little ones. Yeah, I got that. Everybody says I look so healthy. I think I'm just going crazy, you know. And when I go in there with their bright eyes, they give me hugs. They give me colds. Whatever they got, they give it to me, you know. Pretty soon I'm coughing, I'm sneezing, I'm scratching my head, whatever they got, you know, I get it. But I love those kids. They're not scared to say anything. I tell them in Indian, Chesquex, they say Chesquex Stephen means good morning. They're not scared to say it. If they say the wrong thing, they're not scared. And that's the thing I want, is their love, and I love them all. From bottom of my heart, I work there. When they cry, I cry. When they roll on the floor, I roll on the floor. I'm 71 years old, you know, and I roll around on the floor with them. There's not very many people could do that, you know. That's how much I love them. And we teach them the right ways. Okay, I know I'm talking too much, as much as Julie, I guess. Jokes. So I'd like to have Pat Pierre, I'll have the Chini come up first because he doesn't like to talk. He'll talk about our school, and then I'll have Pat Pierre, our elder.
Amlam Stephen. Tachini Pitlu is quest, she's Kedlich, just lempty Luchot yet Hua, Lucas, Quetli Luchot Kenu Welston. I just want to tell you a little story about how I became part of Nkusam and how I became, how I got to today. I was at Salish Cooney College, enrolled in a Salish language class, and one of the students in there asked the teacher, how many speakers of Salish are left? And she said, oh, about 200. And I heard that number, and it really changed my life. It was right at that very moment, that almost that instant, I knew exactly what I was going to do for the rest of my life, and that is to help bring about the revitalization of Salish. And it was at that moment, because of the number she said, I had always thought there were thousands of speakers out here. I thought everybody spoke Salish but me and my family. And the reason why I thought that is because I'm also half Navajo, and I was very fortunate enough to spend summers there growing up. About 2 months every summer, my mom would bring me down there, and my mom's sitting right here in the front row. And that's probably one of the most formative things in my life, that, as far as language is concerned, because while I was there, everybody around me spoke Navajo. My cousins that were my age, my cousins that were younger than me, my aunts and uncles. And I'd like you just to imagine for a moment having grandparents. You know, think about your grandparents. And then imagine never having a conversation with them where you could exchange words with each other. That's the way it was for me, because my grandparents only spoke Navajo, and I didn't speak Navajo, and I didn't understand Navajo. So anytime I would want to communicate with them, it had to be between somebody else as a translator. And so for that reason, I never really got to have any substantive conversation with them. And it was because of those experiences that I felt like I wanted to be a Navajo person, but I felt like I couldn't be Navajo because I couldn't speak the language and I couldn't understand the language, and therefore I wasn't Navajo. That's the way that I thought. And so I would come home at the end of the summer, and I'd be here, and I thought, I would think, who am I? Because I'm an Indian person. I knew I was Salish, and I knew I was Navajo, but to me, I really wasn't, because I couldn't speak the language, I couldn't understand, and so there was a hole in me. I was only a half a person, it felt like. And for I think this is true for many Native children, that we feel loss of connection to our past. We feel an empty identity. We only have just a little feel of it, and it's because we don't speak our language and we don't understand our language. And so within Kusam, the Salish language school that we have here in Arley, the idea is to revitalize that identity back into our youth, so that when they grow up, they won't have these same feelings, that they'll be strong in who they are, they'll be grounded in this place here, they'll know about the knowledge that's out there in the mountains and in all the plants that are around us, the things that are very essential and foundational to who we are in this place and this time. And so the school is working toward that goal, and we're very fortunate to have Pat Pierre and Stephen and all the other wonderful people that work at our school that are very committed to what we're doing. And this school is only possible because of support of individuals. Some of you who are actually sitting out here today are very big supporters of the school, and we're very grateful for that. And I invite every one of you to find out more about what we're doing, about the school. We have 1-hour tours every couple of weeks, and you're all more than welcome to come and check out what we're doing. If you want to just go sign up over there, buy something, support the school, Share your good words, your good thoughts. Anything that you can do is gives us that little bit of motivation to continue on and helps us in any way. So again, I'm just thankful for this opportunity to talk to you, and lamb lunch.
Okay, you forgot to mention your dictionary, Squint. This is what he wrote in here. It's all in Indian and then Suyapi. You know what Suyapi means? Do you? And white. And they're how much? $45. And they got some nothing. Pat Pierce said, "Don't say it." Okay, I'll have. It's a really good book. You could buy it and you could look at it and study it out. Okay, Pat. Here's our elder.
L'anno special. I mean, thank each and every one of you. I want to ask a question today. How many of you know who you're sitting next to? How many know who you're sitting next to? If you don't know, get acquainted right now. Turn around and shake their hand and tell them you're happy to see them here today. And turn to the other side and tell your neighbor on the other side the same thing. And what we're talking about is being neighborly. How many like to be neighborly? All right. I want to touch a little bit on something that was said a while ago. It's about that school. It's called Inkusum, which means one family or one fire. At Inkusum, we work together to bring back our language. And the reason I want to talk about this a little bit is that language perhaps will be the salvation of our people on this reservation. Simply because it was mentioned a while ago several times by my friend Dan, the government. Everything is controlled by the government. If we don't have our language, if we're not rooted and grounded here, have our traditional ways, and the government comes over here and asks me, do you know your language? And I say no. Do you know your traditional ways? No. Do you know anything about your culture? No. If I give them those kind of answers, they're going to say then, why do you have a reservation? Why are you a sovereign nation? You do live in a sovereign nation that live here on the reservation. And if we don't have all this in place, the federal government could abolish this reservation and turn us out there in the mainstream. And that would be very devastating for a lot of people. That is why today we're teaching our children the language, our customs, our culture, our traditional ways, so they can grow up in it. And they can grow up tall and proud. Don't have to walk with their head down, but know who they are. These times, not any one of us here in this crowd knows what the government's going to do next. We think we do, but we don't. The government is always changing. It was said a while ago, when the tribes, Indian people begin to win, they change the law so that we don't win. And that's been an ongoing thing all of my life. 81 years I've been walking the face of this earth. And I too have seen a lot of changes. A lot of those changes are not good. The only thing good about changes is people still have heart. And that's the only way we're going to get through this world, is to have heart. To be able to feel who you are. To be able to feel the earth. To be able to feel all living things upon this earth. When I talk about living things, I'm not only talking about animals and people. I'm talking about the grasses, the trees, the shrubs, everything that's alive. It's our responsibility to take care of it. And we, each and every one of us, have to do our part to protect it. And I'm happy to be here. It's the first time I ever come to this. Told my wife, I said, you know where we're going, what we're getting into? She said, no. I said, I don't either. And here we go. We're here. We're thank you. And everybody in this crowd to remember to love one another. Have no enemies. We can live in peace. We can live in harmony with the earth and all living things. So let us be that way. Let us set aside everything that causes corruption. And let's be happy in our lives. One day at a time if we have to. That's how a lot of us live. Just for today. What can I do today to make someone happy? What can I do today to make someone smile? What can I do today to make you happy? That is our goal every day. We wake up in the morning, we're blessed with another day. We walk into that day and do what we need to do to make all things good. Not only for us, but for everybody around us. Our neighbors. Our neighbors. Love your neighbors. Love everyone around you. That's not to have any kind of hate, jealousy, envy. All of these things will destroy you. A lot of people get jealousy and envy, and soon they're sick, and they die. And if we have love, joy in our hearts, we'll live forever. The other thing that we're teaching our children in our school is all about the medicinal plants out there. There's medicinal plants everywhere. Those luckily have never been destroyed yet. We have those at hand. We're teaching them so that they can get away from the doctor downtown. They don't have to run to the doctor when they get a headache or a side pain, but they can go and get the medicine. We're teaching that. I think one day this earth is going to go back to that, when we're going to have to again totally depend upon the Mother Earth to provide our very livelihood. Today our Mother Earth has been very much abused. Big industry out there destroying our Mother Earth. They're killing her a little bit at a time. It's up to us to make sure that she survives, because she is our provider. The meal we're eating, the gum you chew and everything come from Mother Earth. You don't have to swallow your gum. And so everything comes from the earth. Nothing that I'm wearing, even if it's pure white, didn't drop out of the sky. It comes from the earth. So let's respect our Mother Earth. Let's work together to protect her. Let's not destroy our Mother Earth, but keep her alive. She will continue to provide as long as we're giving back to her. Everything you take from the earth, you must give back. Why do you give back? Because they may want to take again. And if you give back, you can come and take again. We just pray those ranchers up there cutting that hay will put something back in the ground up there so they can get more hay. So I want to thank you today for your attention. I stood over there in the sun and I listened. Some good words. Take those good words to heart. Apply them. Walk in them. Think about them. Remember, most of all, to learn to love your neighbors. Learn to love one another. Lämlem special.
Thank you, Patelik. I always like to hear him talk strong words. You know, years ago, that's the way we were, you know. We were friendly. Now, today, I don't even know who lives next door to me because I don't want to know if somebody breaks in, I don't want to be involved. So, long time ago, when you get a flat tire, everybody stops and helps you out and say, hey, you could bring that tire back anytime, you know. Things like that's changed, you know. Used to open the door for the ladies. Now it's the man goes in first. Yeah, it is. I even go in first. And, you know, the thing is, you know, the world's changed, you know. It's really changed. I don't know, too good or bad. But I remember years ago, when we had animals, we had dogs, they used to sleep outside. Today, they sleep inside. Yeah. When I get home from the powwow, you know who's at the door? My dog. You know who's sleeping? My wife. And my dog is really, you know, today, everybody says, don't touch my dog. Yeah. And that's beautiful, you know. Everything's so beautiful. Just like Pat was said, we're saying, we the people could make this world beautiful, you know. Pick up our garbage, be neighborly, be happy, instead of being grumpy like me all the time. You know, a little smile would really do good for long ways. So I'm going to cut this short, and I want you to come up here. Where's your... Quit holding hands with me. I really like this guy. I want to ask him some questions. Could you tell him I want to ask him some questions?
Of course.
I only got one important thing. When I first met you, all of you guys don't wear hats?
Do you wear hats? Or?
Do you guys wear hats? I'm asking.
Yes, we wear hats. We
You know, this guy is really good looking with a hat, you know. I'm going to try this on. See how good looking he is? He looks like Stephen Small Salmon.
Oh, thank you.
He said thank you. Boy. Next time I come around, I think I'll get him a hat. If I get him a hat, will he wear it?
Yes, of course.
What kind of hat would you like?
Like this one.
You want? Are you a cowboy?
Sometimes I feel like being like a cowboy, a yak herder. And sometimes I like to go like a very fresh man.
Do you ride? Do you know how to ride a horse?
Oh, I also know how to ride horses with the hat. I never get a sunburn either.
Oh, he's just dark like that? Yeah. Okay, that's all I'm going to ask him because, you know, he's really a dear friend to me. And Linda and all the people that I've worked with, you know. I'm not making fun of these people, you know. It's just happiness, you know. The thing is really happiness when you laugh around, you could joke around with your friends and the same religion, and that's what I respect. So, okay, next time I see him, I'm going to get him a hat. What size do you wear? What size do you wear?
The size you wear. Oh, I really don't know the size of the hat, but maybe a little smaller than this one.
Could you, is there a thing that he could grow hair?
So, generally, we as Buddhists like to grow our hair also, and the Buddha prescribed that we can grow it long and as long as we want. But in this case, I like shorter hair, and I like to wear it like that.
A black hat?
Yeah, probably a black hat will do.
Okay, that's all I'm going to say.
Okay. And in our tradition in Tibet, when we wear flowers, not flowers, feathers in our hat, it is a symbolize of great dignity and power. So we also have that in our Tibetan tradition. I love this hat, and I like these flowers. Feathers.
That's all of it. I promised you I'll get him a hat. Oh, round dance. We're going to do a round dance. Round dance. You people, stick around. Would you stand up? I'm going to sing a song, a round dance song. And Where's Aspen? Did she take off already? Aspen, I want you to, this little lady here, could you line up right here and make one big circle all around that teepee? I'll call it a teepee then. All of you, don't be bashful. I know you guys been sitting there for a long time. I won't sing very long. Okay, let's line up right here. Right here? Right around the carpet? No, all the way around, the tent. Come on, you guys. And you follow Aspen. We're going to go this way. Everybody. No, you got to go around the tent. We got lots of people. We want everybody to get around. Everybody, come on. Come on. Okay, they're going to start a circle. They already got a circle. Make one big circle. Be friendly. As soon as I start to drum, you guys start going this way. You guys, the men, you guys have to holler, could you... Hey, places, I'm going to show you how to do it. You guys are too stiff. You guys have to go like this. There you go. Okay. Stay out the middle. You guys got it? Be sexy, Guys, holler. Thank you. And thank you for that. Really made my heart feel good. And I like you guys doing the holler. It was really short. Thank you, that's all. I got to leave. Sit down.
Just